Okay, we are in Clear Lake, California. Now I wanted to show you something pretty incredible. It's pretty cool. And more common than you would think. Now this whole area here has been manhandled. It's been pushed around by bulldozers. It's had structures and stuff on it at some point. But literally, this area here, which stretches from Arrowhead Avenue, which is what it's called because of the obsidian, but also because it's a huge manufacturing site for arrowheads. So this was a spot where there was a massive, huge deposit of obsidian. There's actually loads of obsidian all around this lake, but the stuff around here in this spot is a way less bubbly variety, a way more pure variety. And this lake that we are by is one of the sites in North America. Not only is the lake 2.5 million years old, so it vies for one of the oldest lakes in North America, but it's also one of the oldest established continuously inhabited sites of Native Americans in all of North America, meaning that they came here and they didn't have to travel around and migrate, and there wasn't any periods for like 10 to 13,000 years where they weren't living here. There's an unbroken history of them living here. So if you're thinking on the 13,000 year level, you can look at a spot like this, even though this has been pushed around by bulldozers and stuff. That's why it gets kind of disguised. We're out here on some foothills on the edge of the lake. The lake's over there. This is all lots that were developed. They were scraped flat and stuff. We're actually behind the elementary school here on Arrowhead Avenue, and huge known archaeological sites. Basically the entire rim of the lake is an archaeological site, and that's it's hard to get people to wrap their heads around it. You pick up one arrowhead from a gravel bed, and you know, people picture 12 or 13 Indians living in a little village somewhere on a creek. There was 30,000 people here continuously is the estimate, and those are our estimates, and that's after doing head counts, after of course disease passed through and everything else. So could have been way more. The reason why I'm bringing you here is because it's a manufacture site. That's what I would call it. That's where there once was thousands and thousands of big huge boulders like you'll see in the fields and forests around this lake, and through 10,000 years of coming here to this spot where there was a better grade material and kind of going through it like we are, looking through and busting it up, the ground is just all chips. So that's my theory on this, and it's so massive. I'll show you on Google Earth. I mean, this area where you can find these deposits of this, it's not just obsidian. It's obsidian that's been smashed and smashed and smashed. Every piece that you pick up here has a bulb of percussion, has a sharp edge to it. You can see 1,000 toss downs. You could pick 1,000 toss downs in an hour out of here. I mean, it's just, the ground is covered. And it's such a large thing that it disguises itself and it gets overlooked. But these are, if you know what you're looking at, that didn't just fall across the ground and get all of those knocks in there. And it didn't all happen when it was being bulldozed. This is knocks and knocks and knocks and knocks, and you can pick up every piece. And it's like that, but just the fact that it's all 10,000 little broken chips, it generally does not come out of a volcano like that. It comes out in molten gobs. And this can happen when it's smashing together in a river. You know, you get little chips off the rock, but generally, when you're looking at this, you're looking at the tailings pile. This is a huge, massive tailings pile. And I've come to the edges of this and tried to show it before. But then looking at all the different sites, and then looking at how they're scattered around this is, oh, how to simply put it, this is the mound, this was the hill in the center of 30,000 people who lived here for 10,000 years. That's not just 30,000, that's 30,000 times 10,000. You know, this was the hill in the middle of all of their little farming areas. They say the whole shoreline was a shared 4 or 5 tribes mixing together and all farming and doing permanent agriculture, not to mention the fish and all of the birds and wildlife and everything else. So that all coming together, and then this being right here in proximity of all that. This is within stone's throw of all of their homes. If you walk to the top of this low hill, you could see the lake. And so this is the spot where, one of the spots, I found about 10 of these so far, where you won't find a single raw natural boulder, but you will find mountains of shards and half-worked pieces and toss downs. They can be really cool. And of course I get comments in these videos when I put them, as I understand that what you've been taught is, you know, not to touch a single thing, and that's generally the rules and the regulations, because they won't want people going out and misusing common sense, and or not having common sense and looting archaeological sites. Now that being said, I've talked to several archaeologists from the state, and when they know about a site and they know what's going on with it, they don't try to collect every object out of it. They just get an idea of what was there, the time frames, everything they need to. When the information is gathered, that's it. Doesn't mean that it should be taken out of there. I don't want you to be offended. I want you to understand the scale. I want you to understand that this is pushed out here and they're going to build a house on top of it. They've built houses on top of it. Basically, you know, it's one of like the falsehoods that I feel like they constantly try and push, is that there was very few Native Americans and that they didn't have much impact and they didn't do much when they were here for 10,000 years. And so then we came along and, you know, developed it, and we've done all the developing, and I really don't think that that's the whole story. You can see that there was massive road systems and agricultural systems and trade systems and everything else. So, and this is the type of thing that's hard to show because it's so massive. You know, seen this site documented. Literally, there's 3 village sites within sight of this. Borax Lake right over here, that they, you know are village sites, but that almost is counterintelligent to what I'm trying to tell you, that the whole thing, you know, when they run the numbers by, they're like, yeah, there's 30,000 people here continuously for a 10,000 year period surrounding the entire lake shore and every flat part of it. And that's just one spot in California, but this is a good example because we're at the edge of town. Clear Lake is kind of a undeveloped town as far as becoming a massive sprawling creature. It hasn't yet covered all of its soil up like some of the lower valleys of California. Just like anywhere else, the history ends up being lost because the good spots get built over and built over and built over again. So this is probably what a lot of the valleys that had obsidian deposits in California look like, and they were just totally loaded up. But they have houses on them now. So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say, look how much tailings there are. Look how big of a site. If I can show you on Google, this is massive, this area that you're talking about. And the whole thing is just chips. It's all tailings. There'll be people that chime in that say, those aren't all arrowheads. I'm not saying they're all arrowheads. I'm saying that these have all been affected by the hands of human beings over the eons in their quest to make tools in this location. Yep, basically every chip here, and then a lot of them, you know, probably considered for being a scraper and then tossed back down. If you know anything about knapping, each piece here has a bulb of percussion. You can see where it was knocked off, and you can see secondaries, and somebody was trying hard to make one out of that. Just too much curve, too many big pieces missing, too much other material around, so and what to do with any of these. I mean, that's almost a good blank, except for you can see the curve on it. So most of the good blanks were probably brought out of here and traded and used and are lost in other places. What you're going to find here are the things that weren't quite good enough. But those are all secondary knocks, meaning that the whole big piece was taken off, and then another fleck, and another fleck, and another fleck. And that actually has to have more purpose in it than you're thinking, for sure. You can see pieces trying to get worked here. There's so many little knocks on that, trying to make that into a spear tip. And the other thing about that is that nobody starts off perfectly good at making arrowheads and making tools. So this is probably a really good spot to sit and practice and throw them down and pick up half-made ones and work on it. And, you know, in a world where stone was what most of your tools were made out of, there wasn't a whole lot more worthy things to be doing with your time than learning how to whittle the stuff. You see spots like that where it's just, look how many, each one of those little dishes that you see is a chunk taken off. Chunk, 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 chunk. So, and yeah, this probably goes down 50 or 60 feet. A lot of them were probably pieces that, when they were being made, snapped on them, you know. Got a long ways through that one. It actually had the edges to it. And then maybe lost the tip, or the whole thing busted in half, and it's a toss down. And then these are cores, so you'll find 1,000 cores out here too. That's the opposite of the bulb of percussion, or a solid bulb. You know, it's a core. It's been knocked and knocked and knocked so many times from the bigger stone that it was, that's what's left is a real distinct. You know, it's been made round from having so many things knocked off of it. Those are cores. Those are what me and Rookie call like mother stones, you know. Yep, you could go through here for days and days and days. I have. And just pick and pick and pick and pick. You won't find the perfect tip unless somebody really messed up in it. Left one behind, but you'll find 100 feet deep deposit, 10 acres wide of worked tailings. I think that's pretty cool. It's its own thing, you understand. You're standing, picture farmland and civilized people living all the way around it like there is now, but the natives, and then roads and pathways and all that going on, and then this huge deposit. There's actually pits here, which I believe, not here, little ways that direction, I believe, or might even be the quarries themselves. They just dig in to this white volcanic ash, and there's boulders in it. There's a spot where you can see the large boulders still, and where it's dug away. And I had an inkling that that's actually just sat there undeveloped this whole time. That's actually like a core stone right there. Instead of getting around it, just knocked and knocked and knocked. And the reason for coming to this site, if you live around here, instead of all the other obsidian, because yes, it does stretch to all, there's Mount Canocti, the volcano on the lake, which is just out of sight. Nah, it's actually right there, you can see it. There's Mount Canocti and the smoke of the California haze. The lake is in between us and that, so there's volcanic glass all the way around here. But the stuff right here in this 10 acres is some of the most clearest. The flaws in it, the bubbles that you get in Clear Lake volcanic glass, you see all these bubbles, tend to make it really hard to work as compared to other spots in California and places where there's volcanic glass where it's more pure. So this region of Clear Lake has some very bubbly stuff. This spot where we're at has the clearest that I've seen. meaning the most pure, the less impurities. When you hold it up to the light, it's actually see-through, and has just so few bubbles compared to 10 miles that way, or 10 miles that way, or 10 miles that way, that all have a lot of natural glass, but you'll see that it's very included, has a lot of flaws, and hardly ever broken up. You don't find these sites like this where it's just nothing but chipped glass everywhere that you look, because this is the spot that was worth walking to and selecting your pieces from. You can see this one was worked and worked and worked. That's just a raw edge on that side. Seeing if a tool could get made out of it. And then decided not. Wow, the waves in that piece are pretty. But yeah, compared to what a lot of it looks like around here, this site has some pretty nice looking stuff, pretty pure. So that's my hypothesis for why this particular site was rendered into literally shards over the millennia. Even just a small selection gathered from the side of the road here that I've laid out in 10 minutes of our little babbling wander. And you can see it just goes off into the soil. Oh man. See, that almost makes me want to make that into a tip. It almost was. Got really close. And that's what would happen. Somebody come down, pick it up, try and work it. Maybe I can make a little tip, get distracted away. Start another one. 10,000 years. Probably more. It's been argued, but way more, way longer. Remember, history is just being discovered, so my guess is there's a massive amount of lost history. Yeah. Every piece has been picked up, just gone over, gone over, gone over. It's really hard. This is one of, there's another site that is currently unaccessible on Glass Mountain, where I picked up in one day. I'm not exaggerating. It was private property. I was the landscaper there, so I had permission, but I picked up 50 blanks, and by blanks I mean just beautiful things that were just well worked, perfect shape. They're in my collection now, and realized that the house had been built in a quarry. So the quarry that the Native Americans dug there is large enough to have put a 150-year-old home in. And just massive. It's hard to describe. So I get overwhelmed. I come across grinding bowl sites where there's 30 grinding bowls in the top of one rock, and you could find one of those on every hike in California, and then constantly it seems like they're trying to paint the picture that there was so little activity and so few spots. They treat them like museum pieces and super rare, and like they're only in a few areas. And I'm telling you, no, everywhere there's a human footprint now. There was a human footprint then, and people using it, and people appreciating it. And that's the hard thing for them to admit, you know. You'd have to admit all kinds of things that leads into. But that's the reality of it. And the stones themselves cry out the truth. So I just wanted to point that detail out. Look at that one. You're telling me if you spent a half a day dust, you know. Yes, I pick them up sometimes and show them to the camera. I admit it, like I'm doing now. But yeah, this will be, it's currently about to be developed. Every other part of it has been. We're at the edge of it where there's just some bulldozer push and getting ready to make another set of homes probably is what'll be here. And this will be what's sitting underneath. Well, it's basically a tip. And I probably won't come back to this spot because it drives me crazy. But then you drive by a year later and places are gone, so just wanted to show it. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Just blank after blank after blank. Probably why the road is called Arrowhead Avenue. So much lost information. Could almost been. See, that was a blank. Just not a very good one. Say you make 20 blanks and then you go back to your blanks and you look at them and you're like, yeah, not those two. You know? Sitting right by that one. Same deal. Too much of a curve on it. But I hope you can see what I'm talking about. Even when I show perfect arrowheads, I've had people, I mean, it'll be like a fluted, you know, with little teeth, a bird tip. I've had people say, you don't know anything about Native Americans, that's not an arrowhead. And you're like, but I hope you can see the general gist of what I'm talking about here. There is endless things to be found. Because people aren't looking, they don't believe what they see, they don't understand what they see, or they do understand and they are just aware of it. I mean, what are you going to do about it? I'm aware of it. There it is. There's a mountain of half-work arrowheads. Now you know too. Now everybody knows. So, it could be studied, you could go over the site, you could learn things from it. If they already have, then, you know, it's a pile of half-work stuff. Yep. Okay. I think that's about it for this little search, this little quest. Yeah, you can generally see in a toss down why it was tossed down, but you can see the shape that they were going for also. Keep ending up with these little uniform things. Hope you can see that. Okay. Yeah, these are just mother stones. So every single side of that has had material knocked off and knocked off and knocked off. Basically every larger piece that you see will just be chiseled and whittled down. Trying to get, these are the long skinny pieces that you see missing from the sides here. One was on its way to being a knife almost. Just one side. This one looks like it's lost its tip most of the way through the blanking process. Other ones, looks like that was working its way there. Lost a big piece, lost a whole angle. Looks like it was getting worked into a knife, but just didn't get finished. That bulb and then the disc that comes out. These are just telltale for sure. The whole ground is nothing but, that's what I was trying to say. And I got to get on my way. It's actually a work day. I had to kill an hour, so this is what I was doing. Digging through the past. Oh yeah? This is one of the well-picked over beaches here in the town of Clear Lake as we are passing through today. Thought we'd look at it again. It's always impressive how many little chips there are. In my opinion, they're all working chips. And a huge maker site. But I like sitting right down here on the cobble and just kind of looking at the fine details. This is all basically the same stuff, just the glass slowed down a little bit and turned into glass, but it's all the same stuff. Almost all of this came barfing out of a volcano at one point. That volcano. In my opinion, I think that it's all super bubbly like this because we are so close to the source. And just in the way it cooled down, it ended up being closer to what you would know as call lavas and stuff, you know, pumice. It's the same stuff basically. But these little pieces that I was gathering up are kind of cool because they're like super see-through, but super bubbly, like big bubbles. And you know me, I hunt obsidian all over, all different kinds. And these look like fun little specimens for the collection. They've eluded my attention until now. But no longer. Those are pretty cool. Just like melted plastic. Just looking at pretty little bubbly pieces of melted glass. That's all this video is going to be, just for fun. I just didn't want to collect anything without you. And this stuff is pretty. Almost just let the waves do all the talking on a day like this. And the crow. Crow always has something to say. What foul thing are you eating, friend? I don't want to know. Yeesh. Two and a half thumbnail test. Some super crystalline looking little rhyolite pebble. Just crystal ash compacted down. So this is silicate, this is glass that the volcanic activity spewed up as opposed to. See, there is just an entire huge mound here. I believe this is a spot where there was probably a bunch of boulders and over 10,000 years of continued occupation. They were just reduced down to a pile of chips and blanks from the activity. You can see that half of these are good starts for sure. When you're sitting at the main beach in the center of the main town on a lake where the archaeologists have proven is one of the oldest lakes in North America, 2.5 million years old, and had habitation as early as anybody came across the land bridge, and possibly earlier, and is one of the longest continuous inhabited sites by human beings. When you're sitting here on this beach, you can guarantee that for the last 10,000 years, people have been sitting on this beach. There was no spot in history when there wasn't people here. Just the pioneers ended up taking over, and the Native Americans became less and less to the numbers that dwindled down to today, and then repopulated again to the population of California now. And yeah, these are the same pebbles, the same beach, the same center of a huge, massive civilization, and this was their shore. These are really old, dark, rounded pieces of bone. And I have much respect for sure. But the reason why I point it out and talk about it so plainly is because I believe in more of a working history and a true understanding instead of holding things, let's say, purely as like a forgotten museum piece with very little information. I'd rather fill in all the blanks. Everything just looks really fun today. Picking up some of these super little crystalline soft pieces too. This would be fun to carve into. Be super quick and easy. So many little details in one little spot. Little fish bones. The other vertebrae pieces. There's so much life here. Fish pieces. I'm building a dragon out of bones that I collected someday. All the floats and jets and